Yay, and Kimberly.
Justice,
Oh,
I'm telling you, you win the award. You always win the award for thumbnails and intros. You have got a very, very bright career if you ever wanted it in thumbnails and intros because you always blow me away with that. How
I
are
will,
you?
I will be looking for that on LinkedIn. Thumbnail and intro expert.
I will endorse you for that.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Kimberly, thank you for being here. And Catherine, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So everyone knows we invited Catherine because she's actually owned an EV longer than any of us here. But
Indeed.
she is very casually owned an EV, I think she says. So she is not a numbers gal, and this is fine because I do not think most EV owners are going to end up being the Justins and what ended up being me. Eventually, of the digging into the numbers and always looking at your charging curve and your range and what is it in this temperature versus that temperature. And I don't think most EV owners are going to be that because most car owners don't know their MPG, right? Yeah. Most car owners don't know their tire pressure most of the time, which is kind of a problem. You should know your tire pressure, but that is most people who own vehicles. So Catherine is here to represent the average EV owner. And Kimberly, you have been doing some work asking around in the communities and your own thoughts, and maybe Catherine can help answer some of these as she's had an EV and she is a woman. So, we can deal with these. So I'm just going to let you jump in, Kimberly, with what are the concerns of women in EV and why are they not adopting at the same rate?
Well, the first thing I want to do is let everybody know who Catherine is. Catherine is a very, very integral part of our team, of our CarEdge team. Whenever you hear us say how much work is going on behind the scenes, that's Catherine. Yeah. She is part of the behind the scenes team, and we greatly, greatly appreciate her. But to your question, Justice, I love our ladies in Driven for Women. I really, really do. And I'm going to weigh in with some of their comments about today's show. But in just in general, a while back, I had mentioned, what about the safety for women whenever we go to charge our EVs? And at that time, I was a little feeling like, I think I even said it on the show, am I crazy, or is there anybody else out there that's concerned about this? Well, I went down that rabbit hole and I found out that there's an entire world of women and EVs. And this is a number one concern is safety while charging. Number two concern with women in EVs is range anxiety, which I know we've talked about as well.
Range anxiety, I think we should call it.
Range anxiety. Okay, fantastic. That is what we're going to call it from now on, Catherine.
Catherine, that's awesome. But I would love to hear Catherine's input on those two things. Is this real, Catherine? Does this?
Very real, very real. Yeah, call myself an EV bystander because I'm not really the owner necessarily. My husband is the one who has been very much into EVs, and so I'm just kind of along for the ride. But even the times where I have taken the EV out solo, Kimberly, there are charging stations I have been to where I'm like, it's daylight and I'm okay with this. I would not be okay with this at night. And I think the range anxiety and the safety issues go hand in hand because you can't, got to charge now because I got to keep going. And I don't have, it's gotten better. There's more choices, but some of the locations like in the back of an outlet mall, and far away in a gas station, but far away, there's no lighting, and it's very real.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get to feeling like sitting in your car? Justice, you described one day you were sitting in your car, it was raining, you were scrolling on your devices, not really paying attention to your surroundings, but that thought did go through your head of me saying, hey, what about the safety? You could hear me talking to you, I guess, which is kind of telepathic because we all wear pink. I don't.
Well, first, let me correct you. I was in a Tesla, so I was watching YouTube on my screen in my Tesla.
Devices.
Yeah, but not a handheld device. I was just in my car watching. Uh, but yes, I had never really thought about it before. My mind still thinks I'm 20 something in Boston. It forgets that I'm old and couldn't possibly defend myself if I needed to. But my mind still thinks I can. So I don't really worry too much about that stuff. But yeah, I realized at one point actually, I think I was watching Ray and Zach in a repeat uh, on the YouTube and realized my doors were unlocked. There was nobody else there. This particular place had no lighting, which was the first time I had been to a Tesla charging station that was like that. Typically, in my area, in California at least, most Tesla charging stations are very well lit. A lot of times they're inside parking garages and stuff that are well lit. But in this case, it wasn't. It was raining. My doors are unlocked. I have no awareness of my surroundings at all. And it just had clicked to me. I know I was watching Ray and Zach because you were on. It was one of your videos, Kimberly, because that's what triggered it in my mind. And I said, hey, I have no idea what's going on anywhere around me. I didn't lock my doors. I didn't do anything. And I thought, if I was a woman, like I probably would not have stopped here. But I needed to stop because I'd went out for just a Sunday drive. I like to drive to just relax and blow off steam. So I'd driven pretty much until I think it was at 17% on my battery, and then drove in to charge. Now, if I was a woman and I wasn't comfortable when I got there, I don't know where the next charging station was. So I don't know if I could have made it to another charging station. So all that sort of ran through my head. And yes, I did hear you, Kimberly. I heard that. And I sort of looked at it all in a very different way than I had ever really looked at it before. Because I'm not able to charge at home anymore. So I always have to be at superchargers. So I go all the time. But all mine in my area are really well lit in good places. I live in the capital of California. It's lots and lots and lots of Teslas here. So there's always somebody else there with me.
Right.
Cars, all charging Teslas, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't that make you feel more comfortable, Kimberly, if you're there with, 3-4 other people charging their cars?
Yes, most definitely. And I have to tell you, when I made that comment, I got a lot of feedback, but some of the feedback, you guys, was, well, Kimberly, you just need to plan accordingly. Well, that's not how life works, though, you guys.
Emergencies happen, without a doubt.
Planning accordingly in order to drive my vehicle safely, that's just not life.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not my life anyway.
Yeah, and it's again going back to the range anxiety. I don't want to. Which do I want to risk? Do I want to risk being at this charging station that feels unsafe, or do I want to risk being at the side of the road where it's unsafe? And trying to plan around that, super challenging. When we first had the EV, it was like kind of we live in a colder climate, and I know the battery would drain a bit quicker. And we didn't want to chance it. We were still kind of learning about the EV and the range on that. But yeah, it's tough to do planning around that.
Yeah, I think I don't want to plan either.
Yeah.
I just want to feel safe. Okay. Women have a hard time in today's world just walking down the sidewalk sometimes, depending where you are. We always have to pay attention to our surroundings. So now we've got this EV, and I don't want to have to plan accordingly because I have an EV. I want to be able to feel safe. And I really believe, as many women have said, that that's part of the reason why women aren't buying EVs as much as men.
What else was the response like in the community about safety?
No anxiety.
I had to say, this is one too, like that us Tesla owners don't think much about, but certainly, as Tesla's not by far not the only EV out there, these EA stations and EV Goes and stuff that have so much downtime all the time. You're getting to those, and those stations I do see a lot more, even in my area, that are kind of in sketchier areas, the back behind the Walmart. I'm like, it's behind the Walmart. Like, why would you, even I wouldn't go charge behind a store like that feels stupidly dangerous. Like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
And that's not a disparaging on Walmart. That just happened to be where this one that I'm thinking of was. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't go behind a department store or superstore to charge my vehicle. As a 6'1", 200+ pound man, I would not go there and do that. So if I was a woman, I can't even imagine that would even be an option.
And I just saw a comment come through of there's a distrust that something is actually working, and can't tell you how many times go to a station and it's like, okay, I've got about 3 tries in me. I try this one. Okay, this doesn't work. Try the second one. Okay, this doesn't work. And then the third one, and then I'm like, I'm done. And I can't imagine doing that, in a location that I didn't feel comfortable with, or at night.
Yeah, behind any building, Walmart or it doesn't matter. Even if it's at a hospital that you might think would be a safe building.
Yeah. 20-year law enforcement, of course. Like,
exactly. And Kimberly, you circulated an article talking about safety and having ratings there should be safety ratings on some of these charging stations. That's really fascinating.
I found that fascinating as well, Catherine. And I linked this in Driven for Women, which is on our community forum. So ladies, if you want to become a member of CarEdge Driven for Women, shoot me an email or just go to help@caredge.com and we will make sure that you get in. But I came upon a gal named Erica Myers, and she has a blog or a website called EV Love. She wrote a PDF, which I did link in Driven for Women, called Why the Electric Vehicle Industry Needs More Women. And that was fascinating. She gave us examples of different women that had different experiences while trying to charge their EVs. The whole thing was very fascinating to me. But yes, to get to your point, there is a gal in the UK. And here's another thing. I can't understand why there's so much focus on women in EVs. It feels like more in the UK than here in the United States. I found all kinds of articles about women in EVs, but they're all UK based. But there is a gal in the UK who's starting a whole thing where she wants to coordinate, I don't know, a sheet or something, giving women safe places to charge their EV. I think that's fascinating, and we should do that here as part of the infrastructure. It should be required, I think. I looked at our grocery store yesterday. We have 2 chargers. They are at the front of the parking lot. Yep. They're at the front of the parking lot, so they're close to the grocery store, but that entire lot is not well lit, and there's always a line for one, which tells me the other one not working. Even at the grocery store, here's Catherine, don't you think there should be cameras? Not just well lit, but cameras too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure, I don't know if those apps that rate these on safety, there could be. I have not used one. I just saw someone say, looking at photos. I've looked at Google reviews, but it's like Google reviews. It's like, okay, well, everything is like 3 stars. And I'm like, and I want to sift through something to get to the information I need. But having some kind of easy way of like, is there lighting? Would love for there to be some kind of cameras. And just to, and just to feel better and safer.
So I know the new update coming out for the Tesla app actually has some of these features coming. So you will be able to not only navigate to a Tesla charging station, but they'll have photos and reviews at that charging station. And I thought of you immediately, Kimberly, like to be able to look at the photo and go,
yes,
what is this? And hopefully more women start taking, the photos at nighttime and stuff. And so you can see like, okay, is this somewhere that I want to navigate to, or should I find a different one involved in there. I think that's going to be important in the future because right now, gas stations are sort of well, I would have said they were safe until you circulated that article, Kimberly, and then that's the number 7 place that people get attacked, which I had never thought of. But
yes. And one of our ladies said, even with an ICE vehicle, her father taught her, even whenever you're going to gas up, you get in, you get out. Was that you, Catherine? It might have been you. I can't remember who that was. But it's true. We as women, we do pay attention to our surroundings. We get in, we gas up our vehicles, we leave. So this is a whole new ball game.
Yeah, I think as long as these charging times are as long as they are, and they'll get lower as the years go on, battery technology changes. But if you're sitting there, I mean, my average time at a charging station is about 15 minutes. I think the longest I've ever done is 20 minutes. But 15 minutes is, if you're in a sketchy area, that's a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah.
It sure is.
And I'm Jersey girl here. I don't pump my own gas either. So in previous, vehicles, it's like, oh, someone's going to pump the gas for me and I'm going to get on out of here. And I'm not there that long. But yeah, just as to your point, I've, doing more long distance trips have been at charging stations for 30 minutes. Earlier on in the early EVs, it was even longer.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. When in the beginnings, or if you still have a Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Bolt, you're going to be there a while charging. And I think the unfortunate part of that is likely if you have a Nissan Leaf, and especially if you have a newer Chevy Bolt, you probably are someone who's shopping on a budget, and you're more likely to live in a multifamily dwelling than you are to be owning your house. So you're more likely to have to go out and use those chargers. So you're sort of being forced into those chargers that are not in great areas. You're going to have to sit longer to do it. And, I know some gas stations, BP in particular and Shell, are installing chargers. Would that make you feel more comfortable, Kimberly?
As long as they are well lit with cameras, it would be great to have an attendant, wouldn't it?
Back to the 60s. If someone come out.
Somebody, just an attendant, just kind of, I don't know, hanging around, making sure everything's okay.
But here's my question on that. I'm going to push back on this a little bit, Kimberly. I go to places that have security guards at them sometimes, and I pull up at night. So you pull up to a gas station at night, and there's a security guard walking back and forth. Do you feel safer? Or do you feel like, oh my God, what kind of neighborhood am I in?
That requires some security.
Yeah. Because that's always my reaction. I see a security guard. I tell you, I don't feel safer. I feel like, oh, I need to get to a different neighborhood. I need to be somewhere where they don't feel the need to hire someone to come out and make sure that nobody's getting attacked.
Yeah. No, you're right. Inherently and inside, I do feel safer. I do feel like I don't need to break out my Krav Maga and my can of whoop ass and whatever else I have in my car, to be prepared. But yeah, if I see law enforcement, I inherently do feel safer regardless of where I am.
I'm imagining, Kimberly, your can of whoop ass that you travel with.
It's yeah.
I mean, I hope that in the future, I love stopping when I'm not EVing, stop going to huge truck stops. Those are great. They're well lit. They're usually super clean, and I feel safe there. Kimberly, I'm super curious of other feedback from the community on. So we talked a lot about charging safety, but what are other? Because I talk to people who are who are EV curious, and so what's preventing you from taking the leap into that? And usually it's just a lot of I don't know. Range is one of them, the factors, and then also I don't know what kind of can I plug this into my house, and so charging questions from that standpoint.
Yeah, I ask the ladies again in Driven for Women. I ask them two questions. I want to know how you feel about the safety factor while charging, and I want to know if you think why EV makers don't seem to market to women, or do they seem to market to women? Lake Woman, I love her. She just says, as for EVs, the safety factor of charging is definitely a consideration. Also, range on road trips. What happens if the charging station is inoperable? Wow, you're stuck. I thought that was really, really interesting. And Randy Schwartz, she's typically here in our lives. An EV would be perfect. I'm retired, but I don't do much driving. Again, an EV would be perfect. However, I do take occasional long distance drives. The biggest drawback for me in owning an EV is the length of time to recharge the battery and the life of the battery. So I know Randy, and I know she does her research and her education, but still, there's that factor.
See, and that's where, Susanna has this education is important. Like we see this all the time on this show, on the Ray and Zach show, on CarEdge, the people worried about the life of the battery. Like, and you can point out all the statistics you want. It's going to be 200 to 250,000 miles or more as battery technologies gets better. You're not going to have to really replace this battery, but that is still in people's mind. It's stuck in the zeitgeist out there.
The zeitgeist.
And it's just one of those things is you're like, no matter how much you say it, like you said, Kimberly, I know Randy well. We've had some discussions before. She does her homework. She knows her stuff, but that's still in her head. And I think for a lot of people, like Catherine, what you were saying, with the early days of EVs, how long it took to charge. Now it just doesn't take as long. I mean, don't get me wrong, 15 minutes is a long time, but like if I'm going from Sacramento to Los Angeles, which is about 500 miles, I have to stop 3 times. I choose to stop 3 times. I could stop twice, but I choose to stop 3 times. It takes 15 to 17 minutes each stop, and that's it. And I get to LA with 20% battery, because that's where I'm comfortable. So, for me, having to stop every 2 hours, 2.5 hours for 15 minutes isn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in people's mind, I'm going to have to charge for 45 minutes. I'm going to have to stop, every hour. They seem to think like it's a one-on-one. If I drive for an hour, I'm going to have to stop for an hour. If I drive for an hour, I'm going to have to stop for an hour. And that's still out there too. But Catherine, like you've done this more than I have even, how inconvenient is it when you're on trips?
Well, I find so I live on the East Coast, going up and down the East Coast, I imagine going up and down the West Coast, it's not really a problem. You can find charging stations pretty easily. Going from New Jersey to Indiana is still, it's gotten better, but it was, when we were early EVing, it was a real challenge. And making that trip across, it's like, okay, got to time this right. And so a trip that would take, say, 8 hours to Ohio, all of a sudden stretched into, 10 hours. I mean, combine that with a child and, kids got to go to the bathroom. And so, okay, we got 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, this 8-hour trip is now turning into like a 12 to 14-hour trip with all of the stops in there. Like I said, I think it's gotten a bit better. And at that time, also the range wasn't as long or as wide as what we have now. But yeah, traveling into the interior, that's challenging.
And I know that's a concern for you too, Kimberly, because Justin
Absolutely.
says you guys live in West Virginia and you're sort of in, I think you got like 2 chargers for the whole state, right? It's really not much over there, infrastructure wise.
It's not. We absolutely do not have the infrastructure. If you drive through Doddridge County, West Virginia, if you drive through Garrett County, Maryland, no, just good luck, trying to find somewhere. So I do think just as infrastructure builds, and if there is attention given to women, like, hey, let's make this safer, let's make it more attractive for women, more women will buy EVs. I know I would. Everybody, I get asked probably on a daily basis, did you get an EV yet, Kim? Have you driven an EV yet? No, I haven't, but I want to. I want to try I want to see what that feels like. I would really like to do that. But
Yeah,
again, that infrastructure's got to be here. We don't have it here.
and I think this is sort of pointing out to what you said earlier is they're not really marketing to women and women's concerns. I think you would see better infrastructure in areas quicker.
Yeah.
Overall, I think you would need to see more attention to what are those chargers like in the middle of the night where you're at. We have a lot of people on here, and this has been said twice today already about we should put them at rest stops. I've had this comment on the show before, and I still am flabbergasted. I guess rest stops are different in the rest of the nation than they are in California.
They are,
'Cause
Justice.
I
heard
would
that.
not
Yeah,
go to a rest stop.
I would
There's
not go to a
no
rest stop either.
way I go to it. Like, no. That is
Yeah.
like ground zero for danger. Like,
Right. There's like a shack by the side of the road. I'm like, that
Yeah.
doesn't seem very restful, and I'm not stopping. So that is not a rest stop.
You
yeah,
guys.
they're super
Oh.
sketchy here. I don't know. I live
Oh,
in
you're
Northern
wonderful.
Sketch
California.
stop. The
So
sketch stop.
If you're on the Ohio Turnpike, the Ohio Turnpike has beautiful rest stops with Starbucks in them and lots of eateries. They're like little mini malls. Yeah, we have very nice. I think we have different ideas of rest stops. Justin.
yeah, like 'cause the first time I heard that, I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like I'm at the
There's
home of where most serial killers come from. And I can tell you, they operated in rest stops. So like it just
Yep.
ingrained here where you're like, I'm not going over there. Like there
Yeah,
was
in New Jersey, there's plenty of like, yeah, Ohio has some good ones. In New Jersey, it's like a nope stop. I'm not
Yeah.
stopping there.
Yeah, it's like didn't they do that in one of the Halloween movies, like H2O, where Michael Myers went to a rest
Oh
stop?
my gosh.
Like right, like so. But I've heard this several times. Florida apparently has very nice rest stops.
Oh wow.
So
A couple votes on the Florida rest
yeah,
stops.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So good for Florida. Like maybe that is a good idea throughout the country as a whole. There's a few of us that are like, no, thank you. But like, it seems like maybe that would be a good idea. And they do have power to them because I had heard at one point they didn't have chargers there because of getting the electricity there. I looked into that and debunked that real quick though. So they do have good power going to rest stops, generally speaking.
I think even stepping away from just EVs and women, I think looking at it, I think there are two types of EV. Like my husband is definitely the car is the destination. Like he loves gadgets and he was an early adopter. And then I'm on the other side of that, which I'm not a late adopter. It's more of a car as a means to an end. And so it's like the car's got to be reliable, convenient, not be embarrassing. And I don't really want to plan my life differently around this. And so,
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I go to the EV we have now and it's like, got to open the app. Okay, well, I'm not signed in on this app. I got to, okay, what's the sign in on this app? And then finally I'm like, just get me a fob for this car. Don't want to think about it. And so I think as EVs go more mainstream, appealing to, I don't think that beyond just women, it's like, this isn't a toy anymore. This is a vehicle and it's got to be something convenient. And if it's going to be extra overhead, I'm not terribly interested in it.
Yeah, I agree. Cause I think to your point, I got it. I got my first Tesla because I am an early adopter. I always get the new tech. All my computers are on the public betas or even some non-public betas of everything because I like all the new stuff. But I think EVs are transitioning out of that. And I think to your point about marketing to women, Kimberly, I think more men are early adopters who like the shiny gadgets and we like to play with the toys and and women are more, for lack of a better word, practical about things. And they just want something that's going to work and do its job and they don't want to deal with all the headaches of early adoption and all the tech. And they get frustrated when something doesn't work where an early adopter is like, oh, that's fine. Whatever. My screen went out while I'm driving. What's the big deal? What's the worst that could happen? Oh, by the way, you have no instruments.
So if that's practical, then yes.
Yeah.
Women are definitely practical. I do not want my screen going out. And if it did, it would be a huge deal.
Yeah, our first EV
is a huge deal when that happens. I've had it happen.
Oh yeah, our first EV got bricked out on the street once.
Oh.
That was fun. Also flat tire. It had to be flatbed haul. It was a dramatic car in a lot of ways. I say it's dramatic in a lot of good ways, like, oh, it's dramatic. And it was dramatic, like, I don't need you to be dramatic right now. I just need this to work.
And
Interesting.
I think that goes to more than just women now too. I think
Oh,
EV is starting to hit a breaking point now where they have to start marketing out to everybody. And this is, I've said for a long time, this is Tesla's downfall, is that they don't have a marketing department. They've never had a marketing department. And now we're kind of at a point where some of these misconceptions have taken over and some of these concerns maybe aren't being addressed. And, we have, who is it? Christina Boo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right. Apologies. The Secretary General of the Norwegian Electric Vehicle Association, right? She's the head of Norwegian electric vehicles. And of course, they have the highest EV adoption rate in the world. And they have a woman at the head of it, like promoting and addressing these concerns and talking about it. And it has created this really big adoption. And in America, excuse me for using the name, but I'm going to use the name anyway. We have what? Elon Musk? Please. I'm not sure that he speaks to a lot of women and their point of view very much. I'm not an Elon hater, but I get that he's a bit polarizing.
Yes,
and not a lot of women I know are big fans of the way he speaks. So, like,
Elon, yeah,
we don't have, but on the flip side of that, he has Cheryl Connolly. Oh no, I'm sorry. He has Gwen Shotwell. I don't know how Shotwell, I think is her nice. Yeah, she's the president and CEO of SpaceX. She worked at Tesla for a long time. She's sort of Elon's right hand in those companies. And so I know some has been addressed, but she's very quiet, right? Like not everyone knows about her unless you're heavy into those. And I think we need more of those people. We need a Kimberly Klein out there talking to women about EVs.
Well, I gotta tell you, thank you for that. But I have to tell you, this Erica Myers, she does a really, really great job. And I did reach out to her. I would love to collaborate with her in some way, somehow. But can you imagine, though, if all of a sudden you saw television commercials and you saw, I don't know, YouTube commercials of EV manufacturers showing these wonderfully clean, lit places that looked safe and appealing? I'll bet you that women buyers, you're going to see that bar graph go up and up and up and up and up. You'll sell more vehicles. Why? Well, because that's what women care about. And women make 86% of the decisions. Okay. Yep. We don't buy as many vehicles, but we make those decisions on what vehicles to buy for the family. So yeah, why not do it? But I'm afraid, however, that I'm sorry, West Virginia. I love you, born and raised. I love West Virginia, but around here we build first, and then 10 years down the road, we'll think about how people are going to get in and out on that one lane donkey path, So we build all this stuff first, and then we watch people as they struggle to get in and out of different areas. I'm afraid that's the way EVs or manufacturers are going to be as well. They're building. Let's see how many we can sell without thinking about the infrastructure.
Well, and should they be hitting more on things like home charging? Like, I would feel like that would be a big selling point for a lot of women. Yeah. Like you really only need to go to these stations if you're going on a road trip. On your daily life, you're just coming home and plugging in. And the lack of maintenance needed, right? not just the savings portion of it, but the savings of your time, of not having to go to the mechanic, Kimberly. Like, right, isn't this, like, I feel like these are two other main points that really speak to the women lifestyle, people on the go, busy. There's a few third row EVs out there, including the Tesla. Zero marketing to, hey, women who are the ones who buy third row SUVs. This is here, like this is, and that just doesn't get pushed. So I think there's a lot of areas that I really wish were being marketed better.
Yeah,
in
me
those.
too.
Yeah.
And I will say that part of the reactions from people that I received was, well, Kimberly, you charge at home. You charge at home. I must have gotten 15 comments of you charge at home. Do you think we don't know that? Women are smart. We
Yeah.
know that you can charge at home. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We know we can charge at home. I don't want to be told, well, you just charge at home. I want to be told there are really great places that you can go to that are convenient, clean, safe, well lit, with cameras that you can safely charge. That's what I want to be told. And I do want to get over that what do you call it, Catherine?
Range anxiety.
Range-anxiety. I look forward
absolutely.
to new ways of combating that.
Ask any total cost of ownership as well, and how that differs from your regular vehicle. Of if there's going to be less maintenance, but if something breaks down, is it going to be more expensive? You're getting a computer with 4 wheels, and how's that going to affect how much I'm paying for charging? And getting to the nuts and bolts of that would also be super helpful.
What has your maintenance cost been? Have you had a lot of repairs, Catherine?
Well, let's see. On the current EV, we've been pretty good. I will tell you right now, I defer to my husband on that, and he takes care. Let me just put it this way: he named his EV Baby. He calls it Baby.
Oh,
It's
Baby! I love
the
it.
first one was also called Baby.
Oh.
The first Baby, there was a lot of more unexpected maintenance than I would have anticipated. There were some things I had mentioned. It got bricked in the street one time. I think they had we had a flat tire that ended up being a bit more dramatic as well. So the maintenance there was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. But also at that time, the customer service was very white glove. I highly doubt that Tesla has that level of white glove service now with its popularity. But I wish I would have known how dramatic some things were going to be before going down that road. And at the time, Tesla seemed like it was like, oh, this seems like a kind of a new company. That Musk guy seems a little unstable. Why don't you just like lease this car so we're not stuck with some weird brick thing? And then, now several years later, the second EV, I'm like, okay, well, he still seems unstable, but the company seems to be okay.
But the company is fine.
Yeah. The company's fine, but I just do wonder about some of these emerging brands where I do question where it's, my friend got on a Rivian list and finally got off the Rivian list because she's like, this list doesn't end. Yep. And I really have to question, especially with layoffs at Rivian, it's like, are you going to be stuck with this weird car that nobody can service and no one wants? Like, that's a huge factor.
Yep, I agree. Rivian, Lucid, who you question, are you going to be around in 5 years? I know Justin loves Fisker, but I look at Fisker and go, but they failed so many times already. Like, I love the vehicles they're introducing and coming out with, but I'm kind of like, can we wait and see if they have a successful vehicle for like a decade? Because to your point, Catherine, what happens if Lucid or Rivian, what happens if they go under? Yeah. Who's going to be servicing and repairing these vehicles? Like, we know Tesla's not going anywhere. Okay. Like that we get, but some of these startups, but look at Ford. Ford's lost $3 billion. Who knows how long you can keep doing that and stay in business?
Yeah.
Can I bring this up? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
No, go ahead, Kimberly.
This is a comment along the lines of what we're talking about from Driven from Women, from Cam. And she says, I'm in Michigan and I'm concerned about the timelines of EV repairs, such as waiting for mobile support or getting my vehicle to a town that has knowledgeable, authorized technicians. I saw a YouTube video by a woman who changed the cabin filter on her Tesla I love technology and have a chance to become a family and social group expert on EVs. That is a massive turnaround from childhood when girls in my community were blocked from learning about cars. But those are some of her concerns. Like, what about the technicians in a small town? Are they going to be equipped to do whatever you need done on that
Well,
EV?
a discussion we have often on this show, because I bought my Tesla from a Toyota dealer who knew zero about my vehicle.
Ah,
And nobody at that dealership knew anything about Teslas except for the head of the F&I office, Kimberly, of course, who drove a Tesla, and he knew, of course, knew about him, but nobody else did. So, like, if I didn't have a million Teslas shops near me, which I do, but I'm in Northern California where they were born, so I get that. But if I didn't, like, where would I? I can't take it back to the dealer that I bought the car from. What are they going to do? That Toyota dealership's going to go, I don't know. I can change your tires, and that, that's about it. So yeah, and a lot of these off brands, I do think, I say off brand, but startups like Rivian and Lucid, I think about that all the time. Like, who's going to be doing it unless they partner? And I've thrown this out there before. Unless they partner like with Costco, and Costco starts being the Rivian service center and sells Rivians, like, I do get concerned of where I'm going to take my vehicle. Justin on his Ioniq 5, it's a Hyundai product. He could not go to the one in his town because they didn't know anything about it. So he had to go somewhere else.
And that's in West Virginia.
Yeah. And so that's like, that seems like a real concern here. And those, what happens when something does go wrong? Guys, while we talk about all the time, a lot less is going to go wrong on an EV. There's not as many moving parts. It's just not going to break as often. But as often is different than, hey, this is never going to break. Things break. Anything that they say, anything that moves is going to break. But I was in real estate long enough to tell you anything that sits is also going to break. It doesn't have to move to break. So anything constructed is going to break at some point or another. So, and in the EV world, I mean, in Michigan, they do tend to be fighting these EVs a little bit more for probably what is very obvious reasons. But I would definitely have that concern, unless you're buying it from one of the big three. Where are you going to take it? What's going to happen with it? A legitimate concern.
Totally. Even getting body work done was challenging with the first EV because there's only a certain amount of, I got annoyed with the Tesla dinging at me every time I got close to something. So I shut it off. And then after I shut it off or muted it, then I backed to a car.
Yeah.
And so, it was great. And so getting that thing fixed, though, was like, there was a handful of people that were authorized that could do, I guess, Tesla level work at the time. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine if I was living in a fairly remote area, what I would have done.
Well, and what the insurance statistics are, they total EVs now more than ICE vehicles because the cost of repair is by a large margin. The cost of repair is more than the price of the car. So EVs are more likely to be totaled than their ICE counterparts because it's just too expensive to repair. And I think about things like, I don't know how much you ladies know about the Cybertruck. We've talked about it a few times here. The Cybertruck is a new metal, right? It's not stainless steel. Tesla actually patented and created a new metal for it. So to your point, Catherine, when it needs body work, what are you going to do? Who has this metal to go out there and make this happen? Like, you're going to have to total the vehicle, right? Because the right quarter panel is, got in an accident, is bent up. Well, we're going to total the car because this metal belongs to one company.
I would not like to be in that situation. Tackle it, paper mache. No.
My insurance company would love that. Yeah.
I will tell you, I did have a vehicle that was totaled. It would have been totaled if it was an ICE vehicle too. Don't hit a deer with your vehicle, even with a Tesla. So I did get through the insurance portion of that with Tesla. And I know we had someone talk here about the insurance costs. My Tesla insurance now is still cheaper than than my old Kia insurance was, even with having totaled my previous one by hitting a deer. So, there's that.
Which is a daily occurrence here where I live.
Oh
Hitting
yeah,
deers, like hitting, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of deer.
I didn't think so.
Running around the city, at least.
I'm gonna be Ray. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go eat my lunch now.
You need a bab.
a bab. Yes, I need a bab.
You need a big ass bowl of something.
Uh-huh.
I love it. Guys, thanks so much for inviting me. It was so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Love it.
Thank you, Kimberly, for being here. I'll give you guys the final word.
Oh, Kimberly? I thought you were going to give the final word. No.
Final word. Thank you for having us and allowing us to discuss women and EVs, because I know you talk EVs on every show, but this is really important. So thank you for having us and bringing this, more to the surface.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Please come back, either one of you, both of you, as much as you'd like. This is a perspective that, as we've just discussed for half an hour, 45 minutes, does not get covered enough. It is not discussed enough. So as much as we can talk about it, as much as we can beat this drum and get it out there, please come on back. Everybody else, thank you very much for being here. We'll be back tomorrow with somebody.
With
I don't know who I have. With me. Oh, Mario. That's right. Mario is going to be on tomorrow, and we are going to talk about the bugaboo, depreciation.
Excellent.
Does Tesla help with depreciation, or are they just cratering the market? Spoiler alert, when Project Highland comes out, my car is going to be worth nothing. So have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.